Hey everyone, it's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what that means. A Saturday Morning Hustle. We're going to record the podcast. Here we go. Good morning. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what that means. The Saturday Morning Hustle podcast. Out working the competition while they still sleep. And today we're going to learn lessons from the GOAT. Which GOAT am I talking about? The greatest of all time herself, Simone Biles, the Olympic gymnast, the most amazing gymnast I think I've ever witnessed in my life. I watched the Olympic trials just this week where she was competing to be on the Olympic team for Tokyo, and believe it or not, she had a slip on the balance beam. Simone Biles, the greatest Olympian in history when it comes to gymnastics, had a slip off the balance beam. As unthinkable as it does happen. It is a balance beam, and it is intentionally hard, and she does the hardest routine. But being the true champion that she was, of course, she got right back on the beam. She focused on what she needed to do. She finished the routine nearly flawlessly. She went on to do her floor routine, which is amazing as well. She had the highest score of the two-day competition, easily won the competition, which secured her place on the Olympic team for the United States, where she will go to the Olympics Tokyo in just a few weeks and more than likely win multiple gold medals. She currently has 30 international competition and Olympic gold medals. So she is that impressive. She is the GOAT. She is the best who has ever done it in that sport. But she had a slip. She had a fall. She had a setback. Other people that might have ruined their chances at making the Olympic team, which of course was the goal of the Olympic trials last week, all that hard work to come up short, a slip on something like an apparatus that they practice on 10,000 hours to get to that level. But these things do happen, right? So what Simone did is exactly what we expect out of leaders, out of champions, out of winners, out of successful people. She got right back up on the beam. She refocused herself. She remembered the goal at hand immediately and to finish the routine without any more flaws, without losing any more points, to let that go, to learn the lesson of what she did wrong so she could do it better next time, which I don't know how she does much better. She's amazing and is operating at a very high level. But she still had another apparatus, the floor routine to do before all of her points were put together, whether or not she would win the competition, which was the goal of that day, and then ultimately to win that competition, to make this Olympic team, to go to the Olympics, do her best there, win medals, and continue on her career in that way. So there was immediately what she did, and then there was a big picture of what she did. So in the immediacy, everyone in the arena was watching her. Everyone on television all around the world was watching her when she slipped off the beam, which can seem almost crushing because she was expecting perfection. It wasn't perfect, but she had a job to do. So she had focus, an amazing amount of focus and determination and understanding of the big picture, understanding that that singular slip was not going to end her entire career. It was going to be a footnote in the pathway to Tokyo. So she refocused herself on the rest of the routine. She told herself she was good enough to finish the routine. She had confidence in herself. She was prepared. She knew what to do. She focused on it. She achieved that. She immediately went and prepared for the next event. And in the sports world, they often say you have to have a short memory. When you have a mistake, when you make an error, you have to have a short memory. You can't let that drag on, or else you won't be able to achieve the next thing you're trying to do because you're always afraid of, what if I fall again? Which, of course, you can't do on the balance beam or any other sport where you have to have concentration. So she put that behind us. She focused on what she needed to do, and she moved forward. She learned from it. She got better. The reaction to the error, the reaction to slipping off of the balance beam is what's most important. Many people could have fallen apart mentally right there. They could have panicked. They could have become completely oversensitized to the idea that they could fall again. They could be thinking more about how the score total was not going to be what she wanted to be, or maybe someone else might be considered not making the team because of that slip, which would then inhibit the best performance which was necessary for her to move on in that scenario and in the big picture. So her focus on what needs to be done is exactly what you expect from champions. It's what you expect from winners. It's what you expect from leaders. We have to let every slip, every setback, every fall, everything that doesn't work out the way you expect it to is only a lesson to be learned, something that can be adjusted in the future, but you have to move forward. You can't let your momentum, you can't let the immediate goals, the big picture goals, the ultimate goals slip away on a small tactical error. In fact, this adversity is an opportunity, and I tweeted this week. I put this on social media this week, this quote, literally right after seeing Simone struggle on the balance beam, that adversity is an opportunity. I had a lot of great feedback from all of you out there about this idea, and this is exactly true. And this is the situation I was talking about when I posted that on social media, was Simone falling off of the balance beam, but proving to the world she truly is the greatest, not because she doesn't make mistakes, but because she made that mistake, focused, moved forward, was amazing, scored better than anyone could score on the floor routine, ultimately won the competition easily. Everyone is super excited about having her represent the United States in Tokyo for the Olympics. All of that came from her reaction to the slip and her ability to move forward. That's why they call her the GOAT. She can have a slip, she can even come off the beam and still move forward. That adversity was an opportunity for her to prove exactly how good she is. And that's exactly what she did. So what can you and I, we're not Olympic level athletes. We're probably not considered the GOAT at what we do, although that's the ultimate goal for everyone trying to achieve anything, is to get to that sort of level, that sort of status. But how can all of us learn from what happened to Simone Biles and her reaction to it? Well, it's exactly what happened and her reaction. It's the slip is not the issue. It's how you move forward from it is what will determine if you're a winner or not, if you're successful or not, if you're a leader, if you're the type of person that people might look to someday and say, he or she is the GOAT. The only way that's going to happen is if you can handle adversity. We're all going to have more adversity than easiness. There's going to be setbacks. You're going to start anything you do as a complete amateur. Simone is 24 years old. She's achieved an amazing amount of success in her 24 years. Obviously, was not doing gymnastics the day she was born, but I'm sure is a very, very young child. So let's say in 18 to 20 years, she went from a person who was a complete and absolute beginner as a gymnast to being considered the best person who's ever done it. That's a very short amount of time and also a very long amount of time. It seems like a little bit of an oxymoron, so I will explain that in a little bit further detail. 18 years to go from an absolute beginner to the best to ever do it, the best in the world, the GOAT. It's a very short amount of time. If someone's been doing something for 50 years, you might think they possibly are the best at that. You might build up those 10,000 hours that people say is required for you to become an expert at something. But 10,000 hours is expert level, not the best ever. That's even more than 10,000 hours. So how do you fit that all in 18 years, as an adolescent, as a youth, as a teenager, and now as a young adult? Well, Simone has definitely figured out how to do that because she's been focused. She has set goals. She's achieved those goals. She's broken down her goals into objectives and objectives into tactics, whether it's practice, whether it's conditioning, her diet, the coaches that she uses, the technology that they utilize to improve what it is they're doing, also driving herself, pushing herself, attempting to be the very best at what it is that she does. This is the process. And anyone can participate in that process. Now, not necessarily to become the best gymnast ever, but anything you're trying to achieve, you need to set goals, create objectives, tactics. And then some of those tactics are going to work, some do not, some work better, some work less, making those adjustments, moving through the process. And ultimately, and the lesson of today is how you deal with adversity. You're going to get more no's than yeses. You're going to get knocked down plenty of times. You have to keep getting up. And obviously, earlier in your career, earlier in your process, the more negative things are going to happen, the more setbacks, the more slips off of the beam will happen. So you have to be able to move past them with some patience, with some drive, with some determination, but also learning those lessons so that you can make the adjustments, so that you can move forward, that you can be better. So that's why 18 years to become from a complete amateur to the absolute best to ever do it is an amazingly short amount of time. But it's all about the process. And that process is the same one you and I take. We're trying to build a business. We're trying to build a career. Anything that we're pursuing where we need a level of success, the same process applies. Now, 18 to 20 years to become the best ever is a very long time as well. No one could call Simone Biles an overnight sensation, mostly because her journey has been documented since she was a very young child, and when she started competing and people were started taking notice, probably still as an adolescent, definitely before her teenage years. She's been in the Olympics multiple times. That tells you how long she's been competing at this level. So she had to have patience. She had to have a process, systems in place, support, and continual growth, continual development, continual learning from her mistakes. In that process, when she was from very young in the gymnastics world to where she is now, the adversity was the opportunity. The adversity is what taught her how to get better. The ability to take that in and not as a negative, something that would stop her or keep her from feeling successful, but instead was fuel for her to do better the next time and continue on the path of potentially being the greatest ever, is how this long process paid out. So her focus, her drive, determination, again, but having a vision of what the ultimate goal was, being patient and working the process, never taking shortcuts, never taking the easy way out, and always doing it the hard way, because she drove herself to be the best ever, which now she is being considered. Now, again, we're not all going to be hitting the best ever mark. We can't all be the best, but we all can be highly, highly successful if we think of it as short in the short term, we think of it in the long term, we apply our process, we're patient, we learn from our mistakes, we take adversity as an opportunity to improve ourselves, to learn from, and to get better. That's the ultimate growth that comes from any process. There's no doubt about it that Simone Biles has grown and grown and grown through an amazing process over her 18 to 20 years of being a gymnast to the level of the GOAT, the greatest ever, but she still has an occasional slip on the balance beam. She still occasionally underperforms at the level of expectation she wishes to achieve, but she can still be the best ever. So if the GOAT can have a slip, if the greatest of all time can have struggles in their pursuit of the thing that they've dedicated 20 years straight of their life to, then whatever you're working on, whatever I'm working on, whatever we're trying to achieve, we can give ourselves a little bit of freedom to have those mistakes, to learn from them, a little bit of patience, a little bit of grace, and ultimately keeping your eyes on the prize. You'll achieve the level of success if you keep putting the work in. That's it, folks. That's the lesson from the great Simone Biles, straight to you and me, right here on the Saturday Morning Hustle Podcast. Make sure you listen to the podcast on Anchor app, Apple Podcast Chaser, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, anywhere you find great podcasts. Also, the videos are on YouTube as well. Make sure you check them out each and every week. Also, right now, we have a new episode of the bonus series of the Saturday Morning Hustle Podcast, the Balance series, which is bonus monthly episodes of the Saturday Morning Hustle Podcast. The new episode is all about how bosses, the boss, has to balance whether they should always do something or never do something. I sum it up. I use a phrase, the boss should always make the coffee, or the boss should never make the coffee. It's a conversation about how leaders, bosses, anyone who is trying to be successful and bring other people along with them balance how hands-on they can be, how getting their hands dirty, if you will, versus being in a leadership role where they're simply motivating other people to do what they need to do in the chain of command, in the process, in the system that's in place. What is the balance? It's going to be different for every boss, whether you're a director, a CEO, a vice president, just the head of your household, no matter what kind of boss that you are. It's going to be different for everyone, but approaching ideas with balance is the conversation in the bonus podcast episode that is available now anywhere you find this podcast. So again, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, the Anchor app, Podchaser, anywhere you find great podcast. The bonus series is not on YouTube, simply audio only on the podcast. So make sure you guys check that out. Also, make sure you check out the behind the scenes of the making of this podcast on my IGTV channel, on my Instagram TV as well. Hit me up on social media, Instagram, Twitter, the brand new Saturday Morning Hustle Facebook page, and LinkedIn if that's your gig. All podcast posts, whether they're the bonus series or the regular weekly series, are at SaturdayMorningHustle.com. That's for sure as well. You can also find your swag there. Your Entrepreneur AF, Saturday Morning Hustle, and coffee and donuts, t-shirts, hats, and all the cool swag that you want is at SaturdayMorningHustle.com. So I appreciate if you check that out. Until next week, keep hustling, keep grinding. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. This is the Saturday Morning Hustle.
Saturday morning